If it doesn't make you laugh the second time, maybe don't do it. Good evening, everyone. We have a great show. It's time to sit down and put in those earbuds so as not to disturb the neighbors, because live from New York, it's Off Book, a podcast about Broadway, movies, TV shows, and so many other nerdy things. I am Marc Stoufer III.
And I'm Hailey Briggs. Ashley's out today, but today's episode is all about Saturday Night Live and sketch comedy. What a ride that show is. So
insane.
I actually didn't get into it until a couple years ago because I thought it was the stupidest thing ever at first. Like back when I was in high school, everyone was like, "Oh my God, SNL!" And I'm like,
"This is so dumb. Why do you think this is funny?"
I think college broke my humor. Like I think as soon as I stepped foot into college, it was like, "Nope, you have no humor anymore."
Oh no. I mean, I think it's very hit or miss. There were some legitimately really funny sketches I saw. There was one with John Hamm and Michael Bublé, where it was a commercial for. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a commercial for a restaurant that only serves ham and bubbly, because you know his name, champagne-related foods. So there was champagne glazed ham, and there was champagne with chunks of ham inside it. And the joke is that it's a dumb idea, but we find out that Michael Bublé has been kidnapped by John Hamm and forced into doing this. And they're both so good. I have to show it to you once we're done, because they're both so good at it. It's so understated, but it's so absurd. And it's one of my favorite things ever. But then also you have that infamous Mario courtroom sketch with Elon Musk, where it's just like, what? What even?
Yes.
This isn't even anything.
Definitely some of them are like, what am I watching? I feel like I'm on like some sort of illegal drug. But okay, also, did Michael go back into hibernation because Christmas is over? Get it? Funny joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think probably one of the funniest things of SNL is when Pete Davidson is on.
I've never understood Pete. Like, he's fine. I don't know
why. I think that's why I think my humor is broken, because like the whole thing in him. What was the other person that he was with? Timothy Chalamet, I think his name is.
Chalamet?
I don't know, something like that. But they did like a really funny skit, and it was a whole TikTok sound, and it was extremely funny.
Nice.
And that's how I kind of started to get into it more, was because I saw that. I just think like you have to have a personality to be on SNL, and they don't put anybody that doesn't have a personality on, thankfully.
Well, I mean, the host, they brought Elon Musk on, and I understand why, because ratings, and a bunch of people watched it. But also, why would you? He's not even okay.
I think at one point, like Kim Kardashian did it. I think she did it like a month ago or something. But like it was funny, and I like didn't expect her to be that funny, and it was funny.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing how they can make some very unfunny people funny sometimes, and also they can make some really funny people just so unfunny. It's like, how do you manage to do both?
It's like I feel like whoever really like started this whole thing was definitely had something in their mind, because this is not just something you think of randomly in one day.
Well, I think something that I've noticed is that they seem to rely so much on whoever's hosting. I mean, their ads are literally just, here's the host, here's the musical guest, watch. And I mean, people do. So I think that there is some of that where I don't want to say they're okay with being bad, because I'm sure they're not. I'm sure the writers work really hard there. But I think they understand that if all else fails, they can say, hey, guess what? Celebrity. And people will watch just to see, oh, what's Ariana DeBose gonna do in a sketch? She was actually pretty good. I watched her. But what's Billie Eilish gonna be like in a sketch? She doesn't act, and so sometimes they are a little bit too chillax with the quality there, because they know that people are gonna watch for the celebrity.
Yeah, and so it's like I'm reading an article like about who exactly has been like hosting. So I guess Katy Perry is gonna be on eventually.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson has done it.
He's so good.
Tom Hanks has done it.
Tom Hanks is
Kim Kardashian, there she is, October 9.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's so funny because, again, like you said, they can make some people so funny, and then people who are actually meant to be funny in real life aren't funny.
Mm-hmm.
like who was it? It was I think it was Paul Rudd. Like one of his episodes was just kind of flatlined, I think. For
Well,
me.
the issue because he hosted, and like 2 days before it was supposed to air, like they found out there was a positive case of COVID, and so like half the cast was out. There was no audience, and so everything kind of just got turned around. And Tom Hanks and Tina Fey both came in, and they were going to crown him in the 5-time hosting club, and everything kind of fell apart there. And so they just kind of just did the best they could with what they pre-taped and some of the things, but that wasn't really a normal episode. So
Darn COVID.
yeah, yeah, this pandemic can be over.
I was gonna say, I feel like definitely during COVID, like they had to, I think they switched to like an all like online platform for SNL. Like it was like a whole Zoom thing, maybe. Like I know other talk shows did it, and I guess
Yeah.
SNL's not really a talk show; it's a sketch show. But
They did do
what I
some
mean.
at-home shows through Zoom for a while, and then eventually they went back into the studio without an audience. Now they finally have a fully vaccinated audience back, except for when half the cast gets COVID. But
But
normally,
yeah, I think one of my favorite hosts has to be Kristen Wiig. I
Mm.
love her to death, like in anything she does, especially the movie Bridesmaids. It's one of my favorite movies, but please tell me you've seen it.
I probably have. It's just been a while. I know.
hope.
I know.
Yeah, you bugging me about hating Avatar, and you haven't even seen Bridesmaids.
It was in the service of comedy. It counts.
And she's just so funny to me, and I don't know why, but she just has like this like humor that just clicks with everybody, and she barely has to even try.
Yeah. Well, and I've been noticing as I've been watching some more of these episodes that these writers do a pretty good job with a bunch of different kinds of humor. I mean, they obviously have the sketches, but they also have the monologue, which is an entirely different kind of humor and different kind of writing. They also have those weekend update segments, which is just the news, but they somehow manage to find a way to make these jokes about the news so quickly. You hear I often get news from that show, which probably isn't a good idea because they make up stuff all the time and kids in service of a punchline. So maybe I should watch actual news, but that's not the point. The point is
no, actual news sucks. Don't do it.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the point is they can write successfully in a lot of different kinds of humor. It's not just here's a sketch. They have big cast sketches. They have small cast sketches. They have the monologues. They have the desk segments. They have a lot of different kinds of things. And it's impressive they can do all of those things.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like again, I wasn't interested in it when I first like found out about it, and then I slowly got into it. I feel like it's something you like. It's a comedy you have to like acquire a taste for, especially because some of the jokes can be kind of crude and stuff. So it's like you really have to have that kind of sense of humor. Like I know I have a friend that has like that, and she doesn't have that kind of sense of humor, so she doesn't get any of the sketches at all. Like she doesn't understand.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, and I think something that I always have to remind myself of is that these people are writing all these sketches in like one night. They have like one day to rehearse these, which is why they're reading it off of cue cards. They don't even have time to memorize the lines. They have like a week to put all this together. And, if it seems like it's, I heard someone talk about it and said, if it sounds like it's the insane ramblings of someone who doesn't have enough sleep, it's because it is. It's because these people have no time to write these. They're writing 1 a.m, purely awake on caffeine. So, it's understandable that it's not always going to be as good as this YouTube
yeah,
video.
I want to know what the circumstances are of the writers of the SNL like comedy sketches. Like I need to know what I wonder if they're kidnapped, blindfolded, drove to a like secluded location, given all the caffeine in the world, and told they have to write a script in 30 minutes.
I mean, John Mulaney and Conan O'Brien, who were both writers for the show at one time, talked about it, and I forget what one of them was, but said that they were so kind of driven insane by it. Like getting off the subway, they had to walk like through certain pillars, or else they would feel like the show wouldn't go well that night. I mean, they do some serious things, and it sounds like it's better now, I hope. But these people put themselves under a lot of stress to try to get these pieces out because they know that if they don't, people are going to make fun of them, and it's a lot of work. I mean, props to the writers for getting out. I mean, any show every single week. I try to put out one 30-minute podcast episode a week, and I'm stressing out. They have to put together a full hour-long show full of a bunch of sketch comedy. That's a lot of work.
No, I definitely agree because you have to make sure like your jokes are in line like with current day-to-day stuff, and it doesn't like really okay. It can be crude, but it can't be like very, very, very bad.
Right.
Otherwise, you're
they
gonna
do have standards. This is NBC
yeah.
after all.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not, yeah. It's not just some random YouTube channel.
Yeah. And I mean, the way they can synthesize the news, both in the weekend updates, but even, they have all those political cold opens and stuff, which, I'm not a huge fan of. But the fact that they can take all those headlines and turn them into a successful sketch like 2 days later, I mean, they can synthesize that so fast. And I mean, it's pretty similar to like the talk show writing, where these people have very little turnaround time to go from no ideas to all the ideas. And so, I mean, I think the fact that there are any good sketches is a miracle. Like, how can they write genuinely funny stuff when you have that little time to work with it all? And when you're often working with people that aren't naturally funny. I mean, most of these hosts aren't comedians or even actors. They're like, some of them are, but some of them aren't. And so you're like, okay, how do I teach you how to act
Be funny
in 2 hours?
Yeah, that's why I feel like the hosts aren't pre-planned. They're just like sitting there like by their phones, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, do you want to come do an SNL like skit?" And they're like, "Sure." And then they show up like an hour later.
I feel like it's a little bit more complicated than that, but maybe.
I don't know. That's just this is how
sorry,
it
I just
feels
get a
to
phone call.
me.
It's SNL. Yeah, I will let Leo's next one. Yep.
Guess I have to host by myself now because Mark has to go on SNL.
I'll book with just
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good idea. I'm considering it's been running for how many seasons now? For
It's
how
been
many
running
years?
since like the 70s.
Yeah, I think it said like season 41 or something.
Yeah.
And I was
And
doing
they've
that
been through,
article.
like so many casts and stuff. The fact that they've been able to keep the show through like 9 different, probably more than 9, of so many different rosters of writers, of cast members, of production staff. I mean, I think the only person who's been with it since the beginning is the producer, Lauren Michaels, who kind of created the show. So I mean, the fact that they are still around is impressive.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, you have to have a taste for it. And but I think can you technically, okay, so here's my question. Can you count nighttime talk shows as sketch comedy because they have those bits of sketch comedy in them?
I think they both SNL and late night are variety shows, but I don't think they're the same kind of variety shows
Makes
because
sense.
they're not sketch. I mean, they both are comedy programs, but they're not sketch comedy programs.
Yeah, because like with James, like an example, James Gordon, technically you can count like his what is it? The Broadway thing where he goes out in the middle of the street.
Oh, the Crosswalk musical.
Yes, you can technically count that as sketch comedy because and his driving around car karaoke. Wow, it's Tuesday. I kind of count those as sketch comedy because like no, they're not like planned out, but they're not really a talk show.
Right.
But can I just say I love car karaoke? Like this is my favorite thing ever.
I mean, when you get the right guest, it's pretty good.
Yes.
That Broadway one was my favorite thing. I know I just said that like 5 minutes ago about an SNL sketch, but I've changed my mind. It's the Broadway carpool karaoke.
With like five different Broadway
Yeah, it
actors.
had like Lin-Manuel Miranda, it had Audrey McDonald, and
yeah, I remember that one.
Okay.
Adele was another good one. I liked that one a lot. I didn't like who was it? I think it was probably Justin Bieber. I think he was on there at one point, and I was just like, what is this? He just feels so awkward as a person.
You're not supposed to be a real person. You're supposed to be a 15-year-old thing that the internet can hate on, right? That's
with a bowl cut. Like, come on now.
How did you grow up?
I never liked Justin Bieber in the first place. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I was not one of those girls.
Yeah.
And he just I don't know. Sorry, sidetrack. He doesn't seem like a real person. I feel like he doesn't treat his wife like a real person.
I feel like I cannot legally comment on that without getting sued. Please don't sue me.
But yeah, I think like James Corden is like a step down from SNL with sketch comedy. Everyone thinks, yeah, all the movie stuff that we just ignore that. We pretend that didn't happen. Cats didn't happen.
What Cats? Never heard of it.
Yep, exactly. Except for the Broadway musical. That's all it is. There was no movie adaptation ever.
Nope, it doesn't exist.
I can't believe that still happened.
It was like 3 years ago at this point. I still can't.
I'm traumatized. Of course it's gonna. I'm traumatized. It's fine. I only saw like clips of it when I worked at the movie theater, and I'm traumatized.
I watched the whole thing. It's not worth it.
I feel like we should have been giving out refunds at the end of the movie.
They should come and give you a refund as they exit the theater. Don't even
Yeah.
wait for them to ask you.
Here's your free ticket. Sorry you had to watch that.
Like, no offense to Tom Hooper, but offense to Tom Hooper. Come on, guy. You can do so much better than that. I mean, please don't. Please never try again.
I'm so
If I'm
glad that
clay-based-
Lynn was not on that project. I'm
No.
so glad he was too busy with Hamilton stuff to even think about that.
I'm not sure even he could have fixed that.
No, probably not. That was just that bad.
Yeah, it was not great.
Like, oh my lord. Anyways, I digress. But yeah, but there's also like, just like you watch an episode of sketch comedy and it's like, why is this an episode?
Yeah.
Like there's episodes that leave bad taste in your mouth. Like Justin Bieber.
Moral of the story is don't hire Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber, if you're listening, sorry.
Go
But
away.
you're
No
not
one likes you.
listening. It's real. Wow, that was
It-
direct.
I'm just saying.
You mean you're Justin saying?
Okay, so that's it for today. I'm just kidding.
I think it's time to hear awards from today's box.
Mark makes terrible jokes.
We do that though. That was
Yes, this is like the whole.
Off book. We'll be right back after this. Today's episode is sponsored by Sal and Lockhart Catering. If you're hosting a large event and you need some food, the SNL. Hey, wait a minute. Like the show. Anyway, the SNL Catering Company is an option.
SNL has been around since 1975 and has had a very varied response. Some people say the food hasn't been good since the 80s when they changed the recipe, but the truth is that it's pretty much always been flipping back and forth between high quality and expired cabbage. So in the end, there's about a 50% chance that you'll like the food you get here. You're pretty much likely to dislike at least part of it, but they are doing this every single week and it takes a lot.
So maybe we should cut them a little slack. If one of the mini quiches has some lime juice instead of lemon juice. This is a metaphor for how the weekly high production nature of Saturday Night Live may mean that not every single sketch will be perfect. Anyway, back to the episode.
So you can't expect every episode to be good. So that's why people are like, oh, this is a bad sketch. They do it every week. Like
Mhm.
they have to come up with a whole, what was it, like an hour?
Yeah.
Plus
An hour,
plus random ads and
Well,
like a musician.
It's an hour with ads and the musical guests and stuff. So probably half an hour, 45 minutes of sketches. But that's still very significant.
Yeah, I just like, what do you expect? Like,
Yeah.
I'm
I think-
not one of those people that's like gets so high end on episodes not being good.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that they clearly do know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. They understand how sketch comedy works. It's just that, they're working pretty fast. So, I mean, they understand the pillars of how to write good comedy. It's just they don't always get it.
Yeah, see, I'm not good at comedy, so I don't know what good comedy is. Like I also go to a public university, so
Oh,
my
yeah.
sense of humor doesn't exist. I think everything's funny.
explains why you laugh at my jokes. Anyway. No, I think that for me, I mean, the biggest thing that I've noticed sketch comedy in general, that's good and stuff that isn't, it's just have an idea that is like good for comedy, which sounds obvious, but like there were so many just bad concepts out there. Like, I mean, have characters that can do things. I mean, most of the good sketch comedy, I can laugh at the premise of the sketch. Like if you told me, hey, Michael Bublé and John Hamm started a restaurant about only ham and champagne, you'd go, what? Okay, I want to see that, I guess. A lot of the SNL sketches and a lot of sketch comedy in general has concepts that don't feel like they're good concepts for sketches. Like it feels like, okay, I guess you might be able to make comedy there, but why would you? Just don't do that. Am I rambling here?
No. I get it.
Okay, good.
So it's like you just have to. They do that. They do weird stuff like that. So you watch it, so you know what's going on. Because
Sure.
again, like you hear that, and you're like, wait a second, what? Like, can you say that again? And then it gets explained, and it's funny.
Yeah.
They're like, it's funny. Laugh at our jokes. Watch every week and laugh at our jokes.
Ultimately, I think writers just need to take just read your sketch premise again and make sure you still think it's funny. Because if a bunch of doctors, but get it, they're all making millennial quotes, or they're all using millennial terms, make you laugh the first time. Read it again, and it probably won't. And so, fun fact, if it doesn't make you laugh the second time, maybe don't do it.
Yeah. That's another thing. Like you can't read it so many times though. It's kind of like when you draw something and you look at it, you're like, this is good. And then you look at it again, you're like, yeah, something it could be better. And you look at the next morning, you're like, this is absolutely awful. So like
True.
you can't be too. That's why people are like, oh, are you sure this is funny? And you're like, yeah, I think it's funny.
Well, and I think you got to have a good cast. I mean,
yes, you have to have a good host.
You need performers to understand comedy and can do it. You know, if you have people that can't act or can't do comedy or just don't understand how to play to an audience, because sketch comedy isn't like a Hollywood movie. You know, it's going to be different. Breaking character is really fun and is great as long as you don't do it too often. You know, but like as long as it's genuine, it works. It's fine as long as they understand how to perform that way. You know, you're not necessarily going to want to get Leonardo DiCaprio in SNL. He probably hosted at some point. I don't know, but you know, people that understand how sketch comedy works in order to bring that sketch writing to a comedic thing. Oof.
And that's why I feel like yeah, I like the other people that they have on there, but I feel like having comedians or people that like are actors that are in comedies is better because they know what they're doing. Like I'm glad that they're giving other people a chance. But like I said, like I preferred like Kristen Wiig over Kim Kardashian, but just because like she knows what's funny. Like she knows how to make people laugh.
Mm-hmm. And I mentioned this in my episode on improv, like was it season 2, I think, that there is something the audience can tell when something isn't genuine. Like you can try to hide it from them, but if you've planned something too much or it seems fake, they're gonna know. And there was one example. This isn't entirely about SNL, but there was an episode like last season, I think, where Kate McKinnon, who's great, we love her, did a sketch where she wrote character. And just started talking to the audience about how this year's been terrible and no one knows what's going on, and she just looked exasperated, and it was funny. And then we realized, oh, this breaking character thing was all part of the script; it was all planned, and it kind of became not funny anymore because there's something about breaking character that shows, hey, this is happening. When you mess up a line, when something isn't perfect, when you break character, it shows that it's genuine, and I think you need that with something like sketch. With something like sketch comedy, and I think that the audience can tell when it's been produced too much and it kind of starts to lose that kind of magic of who knows what's going to happen next,
Yeah, I hope it continues on because I feel like it's, especially right now with COVID, it's like you need to laugh.
Right,
you got to have good comedy.
Yes.
Not just like
I mean, yeah, fair. Good comedy is better than bad comedy. Musings on life.
But yeah, I think that they definitely. I think like there could be more sketch comedy. I feel like there's not that much.
Yeah.
Like they have talk shows, but there's not really. I mean, that's kind of it's like borderline. I don't know. There's like
there's not sort of like established like routine sketch comedy, like sketch comedy shows.
Mm-hmm. Like that's why I think a little off topic, but that's why I think James Corden is a good talk show host because he has those extra things that he does, and it like kind of diverts off during his segments. Whereas the other ones just kind of sit and talk. But yeah, you just have to have a certain taste.
Yeah, and quality is good.
Quality. Yeah, you gotta kidnap your writers and make them write the script in 30 minutes.
This is a joke. Please don't kidnap anybody. Upright Incorporated cannot be held responsible for any kidnapping that's happened. Please do not kidnap your writers. Like give them some high quality things and they deserve it. They're putting a lot of work. Please don't after them.
We do not endorse this.
This is a joke. Please don't take it seriously.
We don't endorse kidnapping.
Quality is good. So don't listen to our jokes about kidnapping writers for reference.
Exactly. Our script doesn't include jokes. So.
I mean, it tries to, but it's not very good.
Freehand jokes. Damn.
This is the end of this mostly humorless podcast about sketch comedy. Much like SNL, I'm not that funny without writers.
Next time, it's going to be a deep dive into the somehow real TikTok created Ratatouille musical and what it means for the future of musical theater.
Good night, everyone.